Ed, can you just reach over with the mouse and click OK at the top? The thing on the screen there. Thank you.
Bill, just a quick note. Right now, the Zoom connection is excellent, but it does sometimes just drop out. If that happens, if I disappear, just know that I'll be signing in. It takes me 4 or 5 minutes to sign back in. So we're hoping it doesn't happen, but if it does, I'll be back.
Okay, thank you. So, good afternoon. Welcome to the December 17th Roads and Right-of-Ways Committee meeting. This open meeting is being conducted in a hybrid format. Therefore, the meeting is being recorded and will be available online on the town's YouTube channel. Because we are in hybrid and we have a member of the committee off-site, we will conduct roll calls for attendance and all votes. You don't have to go through identifying yourself on Zoom because we don't have any from the public here at this moment. And that being said, we'll do a roll call for attendance. Alan Reinhardt.
Here.
Lee Saperstein.
Here.
Rick Atherton.
Here.
Matt Lowell.
Here.
Bill Smith.
Here.
Ed Gillum.
Here.
And great. So first item on the agenda is to accept the November 19th, 2024 minutes.
Motion to accept.
So we have a motion to accept by Alan.
Second.
Second by Nat. Discussion. Did you send that out? Yep. It was actually included in the agenda too. All in one PDF.
Is accept different from approved? I don't need to ask, sorry.
So that being said, we will roll call on that motion. Alan Reinhardt.
Aye.
Lee Saperstein.
Aye.
Rick Atherton.
Aye.
Matt Lowell.
Aye.
Bill Smith.
Aye.
Ed Gillum.
Aye.
And Bill Greer, aye. So one of the next item, there aren't any public comment on the agenda, so we'll go right to the third item, which is discussion about the road status list. So I sent out that list today to everybody.
Yeah.
To my knowledge, that is the list that is the official list. It comes from the DPW. What I've been told is they're working with Plus, HDC, whomever, and when roads are accepted, they're keeping track of it, and that's the official list. Alan brought it up, to say, you know, we ought to have a copy of that posted. And so what I sent out today was that list. I took the liberty of putting roads that were not public in orange, so you wouldn't have to sort the list.
Exactly.
And it could be the way that it's set up on an Excel spreadsheet, you could sort it out, but this way you can look at the whole, there's 22 pages. It's in a PDF form so that people can't mess around with it. And so I think, Alan, your thoughts on wanting to put that on the website? You want to talk about that?
Exactly. This is a long-term project for this committee. We started this years ago, working with Mike Burns and what's his name at the computer?
I know, Nathan Porter.
Nathan Porter, to try and develop a list. We discovered when the town realized that Franklin Street was not a public way, even though they had been maintaining it for years and all that sort of thing. And all of a sudden, you know, it was not a public way, it's a private way. And so I think I was chair at the time. I said, you know, we really need to have a definitive list of the public and the private ways. And at that point, there was no official list such as the one You know, when I saw the one that Bill sent out, I couldn't believe it. I said, wow, these are, you know, I didn't check how accurate they were, or if there was some known way that was on there that was, you know, misindicated. But anyway, so that was the origin of this project, the feeling that there should be a published list or a list available to the public, let's put it that way, of the public ways on Nantucket and the private ways. Part of this was during the One Big Beach program when this committee was instrumental in getting the Surfside roads taken, and then the other, you know, there was a lot of other stuff that was going on, so it was all sort of combined in trying to define what this list is. So during that time, we did publish a book, The History of Ways, Ways Offshore, we called it. It was a play on that Philbrook's Way Offshore. But,
Fans.
and it's a great history. We hired Fran to write the history. We gave her a list of, you know, some of the main chapter headings that we should have. Unfortunately, the book is no longer available. I tried to, you know, the bookstores don't have, in fact, I got a call from the bookstore and I only had like 2 or 3 copies left. So unfortunately, I gave one away to the bookstore. But anyway, it's an interesting read about the history of roads and ways. And so anyway, I brought it up to Bill before I knew that there was an official list. The one that you sent out seems to be pretty recent.
Yeah, from what I think it's since Drew's been on board.
Yeah, no, definitely, because there was an issue with the way from Orange Street down to Washington Street. Steps, you know, going down the, what do they call it?
Union Street.
Hmm?
It's Union Street, I think.
Or Union, right, sorry, down to Union Street.
Stone Alley.
Yeah, Stone Alley, that's the one. And that was undetermined whether it was public or private or, you know, whatever. So we went around at that time trying to do it. The town has since, they're still messing with it. They, you know, there is no definitive, you know, use, but they're working on it, you know, as far as determining whether it's, apparently part of it's public up to Ginger's house, and then below Ginger's house down to Union Street, it's private. But there's no, you know, even though the path has been there for years. So anyway, that's a little of the background for this, and I'm glad that Bill, you know, you took care of that. You got a list that we have available. And did Drew say they're gonna put it online?
No, I thought we'd talk about it today. And I think at the very least, if we put on our site with a tag, as of this date.
Yeah,
And so, we just have to keep in touch with the DPW and see if they add to it, and then we could then put in the next, you know, rendition of version. At this point, you know, only way to find out that this list exists is to go to the DPW directly, and so.
right.
I think that at the very least, we could then point people to this when they ask us. Because if it's not on, my understanding is, if it's not on this list, it's absolutely private. So,
Right.
that would be, I think, a simple answer when somebody, may not be the answer they want to hear, but at least it's an answer. Look, this is the list as of such and such a date.
Right.
If it's not on there, consider it private.
There was another situation out in Sconset. I got a call from a woman who lives on some street off of, as you're going out of Sconset toward Pulpus. And she said her driveway was being used because there was a road next to an old golf course road behind it. Somebody purchased a lot and the construction people were using her driveway to access this way that was behind them. The way was clearly mowed and so on. We looked it up and couldn't find it listed anywhere. Apparently, it's part of the golf course. So there was a question as to whether these trucks who were going up and using her driveway could actually use the driveway. Because she was not very happy about, these cement trucks and everything else going up her driveway. So that's the kind of issue that this committee over the years has dealt with.
Through you, Bill, would this be the way that is going up to where the new access for Baxter Road could be, is
No.
the way, is it that far down?
No,
Okay.
no. No, that's a whole different one. They
Yeah.
used to be able to drive that one from the lighthouse all the way down, but no more.
So, with pleasure. Bill?
A question. What reasons might people on a private road want to keep it private?
Oh, God.
Keep the riffraff
Where do
out.
you want me to start with that? Let's think of Millbrook. Right? When that was the big one, we don't want it paved, and there was a lot of discussion about Millbrook Road being like the new way to, because of Quaker Road, another way to get to the west end of Nantucket, Phil.
Right.
That road is private, and I remember saying to him, we gotta put that down on the list,
Mhm.
because people don't want it taken, but technically, there's less of a chance of it getting paved if it's public, because now it has to go through the big rigmarole for that just doesn't happen by itself. Whereas a private road can get paved by the owners if they decide, if there's, you know what I mean, like it can happen a little
Well,
bit
I'm
easier.
just thinking though that, the sort of basic nuts and bolts of maintenance and snow removal and
Well,
all that sort of stuff. I mean, why
but-
would you want to pay that if that
But,
would be the
but
town's
on
responsibility?
Nantucket, you don't have that kind of issue like you do somewhere else, like. Especially a road like that, but yeah, like, there are a lot of little private roads that get plowed by the town. If there's people live there, even if they're not public, I mean, that's just kind of true, I mean. Your point is, I get it, but like, here, people have 4-wheel drives, it doesn't snow all the time. They find ways to get it done on the roads that are not done consistently by
So
the
does
town.
this enable people to say you can't, you're prohibited from being on a road?
Yeah, that's why they
And how are
put
they
it.
gonna enforce it?
Nobody
Well,
can
that's-
say
We know
that
the
either.
enforcement thing, nobody enforces it.
Yeah, but
Exactly.
they can't cut it off. And we don't own to the center line, like
Yeah,
people
well,
think you do,
Right.
that's not true. It's just not public, but you
Right.
don't own that dirt to the center line of the road, unless it's land courted on both sides and
No,
all that
I
other stuff.
still don't, I still don't understand what would incentivize people to resist making their private road public.
Well,
What-
the town's not gonna take it anyway, most of
Rick?
the cases.
Well,
Yeah.
I live on a road that's private,
Mhm.
Swam Road.
You have an
and-
agreement though.
And we have an agreement with the
Excellent,
planning
right.
board after a lot of discussion.
Right.
And
place
because
across the
the
street from
people
you.
who live on the road want it to remain the way it is.
Right.
And we worked out an
Yeah.
arrangement because sometimes a member of the planning board might want it to be 12 feet or 13 feet. And we have ins and outs and
Turnouts,
turnouts, and it works out very well. And
Yeah.
we pay for all the maintenance of the road.
Yeah.
And we like it
Yeah,
that way.
Right.
And it works out
And-
just fine.
and so I'm glad Rick brought that up, Phil. You need to know all this stuff, because it answers all kinds of other questions just by knowing what he just said, as an example. Eel Point Road is another one. Eel Point Road will never get paved. There may be a bike path paved on Eel Point Road before the road ever gets paved. His road, because of that, what the heck was the name of the thing across from you? Greater light, lesser light,
yes,
simple
yeah.
light, something light,
There was
something.
greater light and then there was,
What the heck was the name of that project?
Yeah.
Something happened there. I can't think of the name of it right
yeah,
now.
the guy owned that piece to
Yeah.
the left of the public access
Yeah.
way, next to the now
So
Conservation
the people-
Foundation.
So the
property.
people were mad that the trucks were hauling the dirt away, but they didn't want the dirt in the pile either. So the guy, Howard Blitman, helped with this. He's passed away. with the term turnouts got invented or created or formalized from the Squam Road agreement.
Mhm.
It's actually on plans now. So the fire department is another issue with this stuff they're
That
talking
was an
about.
important part.
They,
Mm.
and I'm not saying they're right or wrong, but it started with the hammerheads at the little subdivision like Wingspread has it, and so does the Shakamo Hills Lane is one of them, where they come out, when these subdivisions went in, it's like, well, how are you gonna turn a fire truck? How are you gonna turn a fire truck? So they came up with, instead of having a circle, they had this hammerhead thing where a truck could turn and back up and
Do a
leave.
K-turn.
Yeah, so, but the turnout thing on the dirt roads is really started with Squam. And Squam Road works as long as there's enough of those little jiggly pullovers that you can get by. You don't have to have 16 feet to pass and repass on a dirt road like that, as long as there's other, things. And they made an agreement, and that road will never get, we'll call it improved.
That's a good word.
That word
Yeah, I
improved
like that.
I get nervous when you hear that word.
But I answered Bill's question, basically,
Yeah.
a lot of people like it. They keep the traffic down.
Until they don't,
They don't like the.
it depends on where it
Well,
is.
it's low maintenance a lot of times,
Yeah.
unless you have to get someone to, level it every once in a while, make it so, in the old days, they had private agreements, and now, somebody does it, probably going down by half. A lot of people think it brings the public, it brings traffic. It's not old man talking, it's, in other words, it's it becomes a highway or a cut through, and they don't want, particularly like Pilgrim, that's.
Pilgrim is, but
That's-
now, but we're getting a lot of, now Pilgrim is starting to bubble up to the surface, creating all sorts of problems. It was R1,
Mhm.
and it still is. And all of a sudden, there's people are using the condition against somebody doing something that they have a right to do. So it
Right.
sort of can go both ways with this stuff.
Well,
But you're all right about that.
does the police department and the fire department have a say in anything like this, or do you say, well, it's a private road? It's not illegal?
When there's a formal subdivision is when they pop in, because then you have to get their
So the fire department has to say.
way in. Yeah, they do.
Please.
So Bill, I've got some input into this. It's my understanding from the fire chief, they do know where the roads are. I don't think they worry about whether they're public or private, but they do worry about whether they can cross them, traversable. And their list may be better than the DPW list, which, by the way, Alan, look up Franklin and then look up Warren's Landing, which my quick perusal of the sheet suggests they're both wrong.
Neil Point shoots around.
The Warren's Landing from its intersection with Eel Point Road out to the water is public. And it's listed as private.
And then you have the roads that are not either.
Yeah, no, question marks on the GIS, they're uncertain.
Meter Street.
However, my real input to this is the Nantucket Civic League, and Alan and I both participate in that, with its 25 area associations. They know which of these roads are private because they have to pay to maintain them. So, well, Rick can add to this because the Squam Quidnet Association, their dues are, I don't know, 20 times more than Nantucket Town Association. We pay $25 a year, and Rick probably pays more like 500.
A little less, but more.
Yeah.
Yes.
And we have
And
two-
all of that has to do with public versus private, because the entire area association is private.
So getting back to the board's pleasure on this, this is the current list as it's known to be. Everyone in the different departments has defaulted to the DPW. So regardless of what we think, I don't think we're about to take on and challenge that unless somebody wants to pick up that thing. So question is, we want to follow Alan's lead and formally adopt this and put it on or not.
Put it on our website.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like the idea of putting it up, posting it. It's a public document anyway. And when we hear it's been updated, we just update it ourselves with a copy.
Or somebody might update it, come to us and say, this is wrong.
That's great, sure.
It gives them a.
Well, if they come to us, we're gonna be, I think we're gonna be sending them to the DPW and the fire
But
department.
at least it raises it, you
Yeah,
know.
oh, yeah.
And then and then maybe we'd advocate,
Yeah.
move it along.
So, we have a motion on Alan's thoughts. Since it's your idea, you wanna make the motion?
And if somebody doesn't like it, we can blame it on Alan.
Yeah, right, there we go, okay.
Second.
Motion by Alan, seconded by Phil. I will, if this passes, which I kind of think it's going to, I'll send it to Maureen and ask her to put it up on that.
Right.
We need to vote on it.
Yep, get ready to do that right now. So, the motion by Alan, seconded by Phil. Roll call. Alan Reinhardt,
Aye.
Lee Saperstein,
Aye.
Rick Avedon,
Aye.
Nat Lowell,
Aye.
Bill Smith,
Aye.
Ed Gillum,
Aye.
and Bill Gruder, aye. All right.
I think this is important because, with all the development that's going on there, the new streets that are coming along all the time and all, presumably they're making that determination whether these are private or public or whatever at the time. But just to sort of keep up with this, as I said, over the years, so many different weird situations have come before this committee. People will bring in something, a question about a way or an old path that goes down or an old road or whatever. And those are the kind of things that over the years, we would do the research, try and come to an answer. Very often we couldn't because the town records were spotty or non-existent. So that's why it's important.
Bill?
At the risk of opening another can of worms. Amelia Drive, was that originally private?
Yep, just got done.
And the developer probably put that in and did it, the dimensions that they wanted to do.
Exactly.
Because every time I try to pass somebody or go on Amelia Drive, it's just too narrow.
Yeah, but that,
I tell you.
yeah, but that doesn't have anything to do with it being private or not.
Well, my thought was is if it was built private and they didn't have to answer to any higher authority, they could make it as wide or
Well,
as narrow as they want.
I'll give you the answer on the main
Yeah,
drive.
go ahead.
The,
I've talked to them.
if you read about the original
87,
covenants and restrictions,
Yeah.
there's no parking on the road.
right.
Yeah.
So Phil,
So,
how long have you been here?
that's the problem.
1959.
Yeah.
So you should know all this. All right, so what Ed just said, I'll add something. Nobody was thinking of on-street parking up until recently on a new project. Okay? They weren't gonna have on-street parking with Safetrum's Path. Wasn't in the original plan, just so you know. So where did people go for like a birthday party? Like just a visit, watch, Yellowstone's last episode. It's like, what are we doing? There's no parking on Appleton. Tons of room for parking, layout wise, but there's no parking. The road is barely 17 feet, edge of pavement. So we never thought about it. That road is 23 feet wide, edge of pavement to the curb. It should be 28, so you can have parking on one side. There's been this mentality over the years, put the parking on the lot, okay. What if they had that thinking before cars? Thank God we got the roads they built before cars, because they got plenty of parking. And then when the cars came along, we decided to not have any parking. So there's been a lot of decisions. That was a planning board decision that shouldn't have been done. I mean, it's easy to say that hindsight wise, but technically they should have had parking on one side of the street. Okay, because 23 gives you the ability to make it into Westchester Street where you can jiggle in and out. So the plan for that road is to cut the curb in between the trees. To have parking in nooks and crannies in between the established trees.
Parkwettes.
Yeah, or whatever you call it.
For the Nantucket Bank lot, if they allow people to park
The-
there,
okay,
it would
there you go.
pass.
There's
It
the,
would've been a-
if that wasn't there, if that was developed, which it can be,
Mhm.
there'd be that much less parking.
So I asked the
I
town
mean,
one time to buy one.
there
of the
isn't
lots
it-
for cheap, and
Yeah.
I said, you should make it parking. You know, that's,
So I could name more roads that weren't done. Cynthia Lane was the most newest one in that development over there, on that side, no parking.
Well, the.
Should have had on street.
But the.
Essex
problem,
Road should be on
Amelia
street.
Drive did not have no parking signs on it, my recollection is. When it would be,
I don't know the answer to that.
well, I do know because my
Yeah.
son,
it had no.
this was probably about 10 years ago, he worked for a landscaper.
Yeah.
And he would take one of our cars over there every morning and park because the landscaper was right there.
Yeah.
Or nearby, and, somebody damaged the car, we left a
Yeah.
nasty note, but there's no parking there.
There is parking.
Well, but
Well,
no.
Yeah.
In their mind, there was no parking
Yeah,
because there was.
right.
Well,
Technically-
now it's a town road, so
Yeah,
now it's a town
but
problem.
this was 10 years ago.
But if you read, back when it was private, if you read the restrictions, it says no parking on the streets.
Hmm.
Technically, it's a private road, no parking. Back in the day, it was created,
But
but
they didn't put any signs up.
no, because I figured it was a private road.
Alright, So we're gonna go from one Phil Smith can of worms to another Phil Smith can of worms.
I
It's-
love doing this.
And that is, Phil, you wanna bring up about the,
So before we leave this,
yeah.
I have just one comment to make on Alan's book over there. I suggested, I read that before I got on this committee, and I suggest it's required reading for anyone in the future.
That's
It's
good.
quite a good book.
If they can find it.
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
I have
it's
it.
in the library. They have a company library.
Yeah, it's,
I have a copy.
we had, you know, they were ordered because John Stackpole, who was
Yeah.
on the committee, got an endorsement
Right, the paper.
for Harbor Fuel. That's right in the front there. So they fronted the money to have it published by Amazon. Now, I asked John if he could, you know, do you have the number to, you know, we can get into, because if you have a book on Amazon, if you're the author of it, you can get into it. I have my collection of poems. And I can go in, but I have to have the right code number to get in. It's the only way I can access it. So John didn't have any sort of a code number to get into access this book. I was gonna order another 100 copies for the, you know, bookstores and everything else, but so far, we've not been able to get any more of those.
I thought the
So
picture-
Alan, we can't find sort of the print version or whatever they sent to Amazon. I mean, somebody must have typed
Oh,
it up originally.
Yeah,
somebody must have a PDF.
Anyway, I am sort of thinking we ought to make sure there's an electronic version of this that, you know, somebody can get at if they
Agreed.
need
So-
to.
yeah.
This should not be
I mean-
insurmountable.
Right, it shouldn't be lost.
So we could hire somebody to scan that book in. It wouldn't cost that much money.
True. Ken Blackshaw was the one who actually put this together, and he is the one who, you know, put it all, working with me and Fran.
Mhm.
He got it off to Amazon, and that's where it was
Well, maybe
published.
he has it.
Well, I've talked with him just recently. He had an issue with the storm down there in his house in Florida now.
And that's what happens to things, right?
Yeah, I know. So, but he said he would check his record. He must have on his computer, I would think, whatever the master that he sent off to Amazon.
So Deanne and I had an old family archive like this.
Right.
And one of her sisters sent it out. It came back exquisitely copied electronic version. And so there are people who do that.
Yeah.
When you just send that version off, you get it back. So
Okay, well, I think it would be worth getting more copies of it for, you know, for any of the commissioners or who want them,
It
or,
also takes us kind of a history of.
No, I
Or-
think we should make an effort to try to make this happen.
yeah, all right,
we could put it up on our website.
All right.
And make it available freebie as an electronic
Yeah,
version.
that would be great.
I'll follow up with Ken Blackshaw and see what kind of he's got to have a computer file of it, I would think. He wouldn't.
If it's not copyrighted or something like that, I mean, at the library, I remember when they had to do all the copying of all the files, put them in
Right.
the library has. There's someone there, and I mean, they have people working on it, students and, you know.
Even if we get a PDF of the document itself,
Right.
the glossiness and just
Exactly.
put that up.
All right, well, I'll follow up on that and I'll bring it back to
Okay,
the
great.
committee here, at a future.
Are you trying to finagle a trip to Florida out of this?
Yeah, he has to research it. Yeah, you need to go down and visit Ken.
Yeah, right.
All right, so, Bill, asked a question about the Harbor Plan Committee update. I'm looking for some input, before they make a report to the select board, so.
Okay, we are now the Harbor Plan Update Committee, and this is updating Connecticut Harbor and Nantucket Harbor. We are now fully into the second year on this. Meeting every other week. Wow.
Wow.
2 years. I don't know how many. We've had a little bit of a hiatus this last 2 months because our outside consultant, this group at UMass Boston, who has been working with other communities in the state, for their harbor plans, so they've been well familiar with the whole
Mm.
drill as to how to go about doing this. And they have a very good relationship with the fellow who is the guy who, essentially recommends to the people in Boston or the State House that this is an acceptable.
To
plan.
approve them.
Forget his name, he extends, and he kind of is aware of what we're doing, he's seen the work we've done, and so far, we're, check, we're checking the boxes. We are now at the point where this outside consultant, UMass Boston, has taken all of the work that we've done over the 2 years and condensed it into, I think, something like almost 150 pages,
That's
down
condensed.
from 900 from
That's condensed.
2009. And because what we did is we went through the 2009 plan, which was the last time it was done. It's supposed to be done every 10 years.
Yeah.
But if you figure out 2019, what was going on in 2019, there was COVID.
Exactly.
The whole thing didn't stop. So this is an attempt to do the 10-year plan, 14 years later, or whatever it is. But anyhow, we went through as a committee, we went through that plan and essentially, figured out what to keep, what had been done. We'll just put it in the appendix as done. What is something that we just don't think, given the current environment, makes any sense, and so we'll delete that. And then we've had several public meetings where we've had the public come and make comments, and we've also made a real effort to go to the public online and give us their comments, and so we've gotten a lot of that. So we're now at the point where this plan is in a sort of a first final draft. And now each of the recommendations has a group of interested parties. And Nantucket being Nantucket, there are in some cases 15 interested
Right.
parties. One of the things that we decided, without any question or debate at all, is that of the interested parties, there is going to be one with an asterisk, which is like they're going to be responsible for that. So there's none of this kind.
All right.
And but there's a lot of material that requires many other committees. You're probably on some of them already, but requires commentary, input, suggestions, corrections,
Yeah.
et cetera, And the idea is that we would do this over a 2-month period. However, a lot of these committees only meet once a month, so it'd be real easy to miss that 2-month period if people don't, don't meet in sync with what we're gonna do. But what the committee is going to do is send around to each of the interested parties the cut and paste portions that affect that or that interested party might be involved with. And so you will be getting in the next week or two, and I think it would be, Bill as the chair of this committee would be getting sort of stripped out version of anything that involves roads and right of way. And then what we would do is sink our teeth into that and comment, correct, update, make suggestions, et cetera, just to make it a better document. And that's where we are.
So is that draft available online for people to look at? Not yet?
Not yet.
How about the 100-page document?
Well, that's the one we're talking.
That's
about.
what we're talking
That's the
about?
one that's gotta get stripped down, but
Okay.
first things first, we're gonna strip it out and get comments before we, before we completely lose control of the whole process. And that's where it is.
And there's a lot more going on now with resiliency stuff and crack that fits into
Yeah.
some of your thing.
Came to a couple
Lot of
of our meetings,
crossover.
we had more, we had like about 3 or 4 people from the crack committee.
Yeah,
In fact, I think Peter Grace,
Yeah.
who was our secretary, is on that committee.
yeah.
So, I mean, we're kind of pretty much plugged into what's going on there, but the crack is one of them.
Yeah.
I mean, it was, every committee,
We've got so many different plans and that's why I keep saying, like I was saying earlier, like, just things have materialized to make another committee look like they don't exist anymore.
well, there's a lot of.
That's true.
There's a lot of overlap.
Yeah, there you go.
And part of our job is to sort of boil this all down.
But that's a state required thing that you're doing. That's key, important, regardless of whether
It is.
you gotta get that stuff sort of,
It is,
Yeah.
and it's, but this is not rocket science, it's just a question.
do they still have that extra steamship terminal in there? Get that out of there, would you? Oh my God. I know about that from the original one.
Don't you want another term?
Oh, we just put a paved jetties
Well,
beach.
Come on.
No, the West Jet, the West Jetty would be extended, and we would have another terminal out there on the end of the West Jetty.
Just for backup, like a generator, some extra freezer.
I mean, Linda Williams just goes nuts when every time.
That has to be scratched. I mean, it's embarrassing. Yeah, I know.
That's just one person.
I mean, but I remember when that first started, Wayne Lamson was the GM of Steamship Town, this is years ago, Flint was there.
No,
And I remember reading it, I
no,
thought it was
no,
a
that-
typo,
that is
I
not
asked if it
going
was a
any
typo.
further. Linda Williams is the chair of the.
She's taking care of that
I'm
now.
the vice chair, and there is no way that that's gonna go forward, but anyhow. I mean, we're trying to be accepting all ideas and.
Yeah.
Under the category of all ideas.
Yeah.
And, but it's a lot of the stuff is the same old stuff. One of the things we've had some very lively discussions on is the mooring field. And, can we squeeze some more moorings in there? You know?
Or
There was
fewer
a plan
moorings?
for the west,
Well,
the
the
jetty,
problem is people throw out the Army Corps of Engineers, and we're supposed to be verified of the Army Corps of Engineers, and they have a certain number which you can't go over, but anyhow, these are all,
that's true.
these are all, the Army
I
Corps
know
of
that.
Engineers is the one that essentially says, these are the number of moorings that are acceptable and that you cannot go over.
So do
Never
they
heard
have a
that
number that's over our current number?
No.
No.
No, we're at capacity.
I see.
But then just to add another little, to show how much fun this has been. I mean.
Better than the paper, I mean, than the private road stuff.
Well, I mean, but one of the things is that not only is there a limit as to how much open water you can put a mooring and have the space and all of that. But for example, if you go down, for example, to Cathcart Road.
Right.
Or Monomoy or something, you get all of the parking problems on the street. And then you've got the people with all their little kayaks and dinghies and stuff on the beach, which is now gotten, if you go down the Cathcart Road, it's overwhelming. So, I mean, there are all sorts of associated issues here, but, it is an attempt to, I mean, one of the things that's come out of this is there has to be another ramp in addition to Children's Beach. We cannot have just one.
And we've lost all the opportunities to have
And
it.
we,
So we kinda-
we've had that,
I think, well, we haven't lost them. We just didn't let it
But this
happen
is-
when it should have at Great
but
Harvey got them.
this is one
That's
thing
where it should have
that,
been.
I know.
We hated them.
because one
and
of
now
the
we love
things
them.
that this document is, and we should, for our committee, when we look at this, what we wanna do is put stakes in the sand to put the state on notice that if an opportunity comes up, we wanna do this, and we don't want you guys telling us we can't do this.
Who's you guys? Just whatever. The Concom or somebody else? Who's, you guys can't? What did you mean by
I'm
that?
talking about Boston,
Okay, okay,
I'm talking about the state, in
Yeah.
other words, I understand it, the whole reason for this plan is that if something bubbles to the surface within that 10-year period, if it's not in the plan.
Right.
You're gonna have a real problem getting it through the state.
Exactly.
So the other issue too is.
does it have to be a specific, site-specific in the plan or just a
I
concept?
think the concept.
Okay,
I mean,
good.
we're,
Cause you can't have it site-specific.
no, I think it's the concept, but if it's something, it's something where you just can't dream something up within that 10-year period and go to the state and get too much.
Right.
Enthusiasm
Yeah.
for it.
And the other issue is the existing ramps that we have. All have issues. For example, the F Street ramp. Is a state ramp. At a town pier. And the town can't and won't. Work on the ramp, because that's a state job. The pier is owned by the town. And the ramp, when it was installed, is too short. It doesn't go far enough into the water.
Now, are you talking about Children's Beach?
No,
We're talking about Manicat.
Walter Barrett Pier.
Okay,
Yeah,
this is where you guys in Manicat have gotta help us with this.
The
because-
town knows all this.
I know, but we
and
need to, we need them,
So it's,
we need, the
we got
Manicat
laryngitis
people
from
need to
talking
jump
about
into this and help
the
us.
state
with that.
knows, when they came out to do the last retro. The engineer acknowledged that it should have been extended out further. Because what happens is, when people come in to retrieve their boats under the trailers. A lot of them don't wanna get their pinkies wet, so they back the trailer down and they power on with their 72. Outboards at a 400 horsepower each, and the backwash. Digs a hole at the end of the ramp. And so, when at low tide, when people back down. To put their
trailer
boat
wheels
in the
go
water,
down.
the trailer wheels go down over and drop into the
Well,
hole.
this is exactly the kind of thing that, because this is our way of saying to the state, this is what we.
So then, so you fast forward over to Jackson Point here, which the town, was at loggerheads when that was built, because. Part of the community wanted it done at Warren's Landing, part wanted it done. At Jackson Point, it ended up going to Jackson Point, it's the most underutilized. Ramp of all of them, because they have to back the trailers down. From, the intersection of Ames and Mass Ave, have to back it all the way down. The windy Mass Ave to the dock. Because there's no room to turn around down there. And then the Children's Beach one had to be redone. Because it too was constructed
Well, the
incorrectly.
Children's Beach one is too steep.
And so-
So what happens is, is by the time you get the boat floating, half of your truck is in the water.
And that's the problem with Jackson also, was so steep.
So anyhow,
So anyhow,
these
so the
are
point being
exactly
is-
these are exactly the
Exactly.
things that we want to, elaborate on in the report. And it's a way for us, now, if you really want to,
Oh,
now.
here we go.
You go crazy with it.
This-
There's something called chapter 91.
Oh, yeah.
Ah, yes.
And we probably know more about this than anybody else in the state, and we don't know anything. This is scary. We had a conference call with the people in Boston in chapter 91. And we asked for a printout of all of the properties that were on the harbor that were, had the chapter 91 licenses, and so we wanted to print out the whole thing. It's on index cards.
Oh, yeah, like the land court. They're
It's
like,
on index cards.
they got files.
And if you want to review
cobwebs.
the index cards, you need to make an appointment.
Yeah. sounds
Exactly.
It's
like
like
that.
the third Thursday of the month when it's a full moon.
It's okay. It's just how
So,
it is,
So
Massachusetts.
So how about this? So, if we, in fact, I do get the document, I will send it out to everybody and then we'll put it on the agenda. When I send it out, you can start to think about exactly what we talked about in the agenda.
I think it,
And
I second, I think it's a great motion, a great idea, but also should the different civic associations perhaps that are involved in these areas, with someone involved, would that kind of like be some area involvement or something?
I will make sure that, I think the civic associations have been, are on the mailing list, but I'll make sure that
I
happens.
would think that they
No,
would
I mean,
gather.
because that's an obvious one.
But it's a whole different process. The local area associations are
Right, but
doing
at least they're, They
coordination.
get the concerned citizens.
We want
in
to
that area.
vacuum up every possible.
Exactly,
source,
yeah.
that's it. Okay, that's a good point.
One of the reasons that your committee is so important is because even today, when there's a new project coming up around the harbor or anywhere on the waterfront, they refer to the old 2019.
Well, I think the other thing is that, there are, in addition to the ramps, is that we only have, one travel lift from the island.
Well, we have a travel with American too, right?
Too.
I know.
You're talking about for a certain size boat? Yeah, well, GHYC. Again, you're bringing back the memories of GHYC at the beginning. Like many other things that we
And there was
find a
certain
way to like
commitments-
them later and
there were
didn't work
certain
with them at the
commitments
beginning.
made. Um,
Still feel that's the place
and,
we're in somewhere.
that needs to be adjustable.
No. Well, the public waste section in the 2019 or 19, whatever the last plan
Yeah.
was,
Yeah.
that was the output from this committee. We worked on that for the public access. And we've also done chapter 91. We did, what was a program on local TV. Remember, we had somebody from I think it was from the land court.
Yeah, have to read.
Did you recall? And we had, what's his name, the local, person who handles that, who talked about chapter 91. It was a specific program
Yeah.
that we televised about chapter 91.
well, we had the guy from that department came down and gave a presentation at Fairgrounds, I think it was.
We had that whole Zoom thing too.
Yeah.
Right, is that the same thing?
Yeah.
Right,
I think you're referring to the Civic League Forum
right.
on
Yeah,
chapter
that's right.
91.
That's
and
right.
Pulled everybody together.
That was
Yeah,
exactly-
yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Mhm.
One of the things with chapter 91 is that, this whole notion that we discussed at this committee about the walk
Right,
from the Coast Guard
Mhm.
station all the way around
exactly.
to the creeks.
Yeah.
That is burned into this plan. The only issue is we have a thing called the steamship authority.
And the thing goes, who's gonna pay for it? It's like, I'm just saying,
We don't worry.
we don't worry about those things,
But anyhow,
especially
the
this year.
steamship authority is sort of right in the middle of this.
But that's a public, the thing through that gate by the
Mhm.
yacht club,
Right.
that's
You're talking about the other yacht club, the Nantucket.
the old money yacht club.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's legal passage there, I think,
Mhm.
pretty sure.
Well, yeah, there used to be a gate
Well,
when that was the,
Well, the yacht
Skating
club,
rink.
the yacht club has some very old licenses.
Yeah.
That, do not have an expiration date on them.
Yeah,
parking lot was flooded every winter and that was.
Anyhow, this gives you a flavor of how committee is touching a lot of different things.
All right, so by consensus, everybody in agreement, if I get it, it sounds like we will, I'll send it out to everybody,
Put it on the agenda.
a note. Give, depending on how close it is to our next meeting, it may not be the next meeting, because we won't have time to check it out, but, we will, put it on as an agenda item and, probably there'll be enough discussion that it almost will be a single agenda item unless there's something, that we need to add in.
And I think we're kind of thinking a little bit ahead, who is gonna be on the follow-on committee that actually oversees how this is done. Beyond the reports that.
Right.
Should we be inviting anyone to that
Well,
agenda item being besides yourself?
well,
Is there someone else
I think somebody from this committee should probably be on that follow-up committee, because that's the committee that's going to be tracking progress or lack thereof.
So we'll be looking for volunteers for that. All right. So, nice segue into the next agenda item, which is, minute takers. So the minutes that we approved today, which was on November 19th meeting, that was crafted from the AI, Zoom AI summary. And, the way that it's currently set up, and so far, we're the only committee that's been able to try to harness this app. I've been working with Maureen, at the town building, and, one of the other official town committees, an elected town committee, tried to use it the other day and, couldn't get it to work the way that ours is working. So Maureen called me yesterday and we looked at it. And as I explained to her, and I was telling, I think, Nat earlier, I believe the reason it works for us is the way we're doing this hybrid meeting. We use the town computer to log in, fire up the session, and then I bring my laptop and I log in on the link that goes out in the agenda. And then the host, which is the town computer, I make myself a co-host. And my guess is, we haven't been able to prove it, we're gonna try to work on it and do a sit down side by side. My guess is that the Zoom parameters of my association's personal account, where I can drill down into the advanced settings, and I've activated the AI summary feature. Maureen was not able to do that on the town, the credentials, it wouldn't allow her to delve down into it. So we don't know if it's the IT folks that are gonna have to do that. That being said, currently, the way that I've come up with being able to capture this is the minutes, the summary and recording go to the cloud. Maureen is the only one that can see them because it's a town account. And then she takes the PDF and send it to me. And the report starts out, it has a summary, and then it has a rather detailed discussion of the entire meeting. The issue is, if somebody weighs in online, who's logged in, the way you log in, the AI picks up that, and if Joe Smith is logged in and Joe Smith says something, it says Joe Smith, and then it has the dialogue that Joe Smith said. And if Mary Jones is on there and she makes a comment, it'll say Mary Jones, whatever. But any conversation in this room, because it's the town account, it attributes everything that's said to town said. So it's rather cumbersome to try to go through all that
Yeah.
and figure it out.
Yeah,
But by using the summary, and I drew up a little template that I will distribute to whoever volunteers to pick a month or a meeting to do. And in the template, which has passed muster with Maureen, it'll be plugging in the date of the meeting, who was in attendance, have to plug that into the template. And anybody that's on Zoom, you note that. And then all votes, roll call would be included, so you'd have to say who made a motion, first and second. And you can say it passed by unanimous decision or whatever, you don't have to. So it won't be the detail that Lee did, but it covers the basics of what we have to do to be compliant with the minute tape. So that being said, we have, today's meeting is the first one that somebody can volunteer for. And then Maureen will send the thing, and I'll work with whoever it is so they can see how it's done. And it'll still take a couple hours to do that. You can always go back and look at the Zoom recording, but I believe you have individual memory plus any notes you would take if you knew you were going to be the note taker. You can plug your stuff in, and then it's saved, sent to the group to review the way that we just did, and then it's sent to Maureen for her to post. So, barring that, and we have the only committee that's struggling with minute taking, which is why Maureen's trying to work on something that can be used townwide. But it's not ready for prime time, and unfortunately, we're the guinea pigs trying to solve this.
So just to understand, I assume other committees all have the same problem, or a lot of them do. And are they just not preparing minutes? I mean, when you go online and look on, the list, many people haven't had minutes up there for 2 years, I think that's a common problem.
That's why I believe Maureen's trying to come up with something.
Yeah, and so we're the guinea pigs because you're persevering, which I think is correct. Good for you. Good for us.
Did anyone mention to Maureen about, like I said, like just plot notes? I mean, there are other things that other committees do, not here, but I mean, like a charity committee, another board does it. And they might, you literally put the thing in the middle and it actually picks up who says what, and the notes there are too many notes, but it does get the right people right.
It's above, for me, it's above my pay grade. It's above my willingness to take on yet another aspect of it.
Right.
And quite frankly, I think it's a town issue that the town needs to solve.
Well, I agree with you.
And so I'm willing to do whatever. I'm approaching that cliff. And if this isn't workable, then it's not workable.
So when you describe it, it sounds like one of the things our volunteer might do is when the town's speaking, to try and identify that was Alan, sort of insert that and then hit
Well,
return for a new paragraph,
I started
that
to
kind
do
of
that.
thing?
I started to do that, but
Yeah.
it captures all the dialogue, so it's these rather large paragraphs. And what I finally ended up doing was saying, well, the summary is pretty accurate. It captures, which, I don't know if you, I put up our minutes actually that we just approved. And I can show you the example of what the summary says.
Well, you're gonna help train us, so we'll find out.
So, let me share the screen here. for the meeting.
In the future, do we see meetings being done in hybrid?
So, say that again,
For the foreseeable future, are the meetings by the town gonna be done in a hybrid?
well,
format?
it's interesting,
There was some debate.
when we went to that,
Oh,
mandatory class.
Yeah.
I think it's March that the state has to decide if they're gonna allow.
That's never gonna happen.
Yeah.
They're gonna leave it because the discrimination side of it is huge.
Well, not only that, the town's gonna be in a
Yeah,
pickle,
being-
because that means all the town employees that attend meetings via Zoom.
Yeah,
won't be allowed.
it is too much, this is like going back to cassettes. And 8 tracks maybe, like it just works so good, and all of a sudden we're gonna flip a switch and go back to pencil and paper meetings, I don't believe it.
So if you look up.
I
on
just
the
don't believe
screen,
it, because there's too many accesses for so many different people to be on.
Work offline and be-
Well, there's a bazillion things, look at the public hearings, dude, in the winter, the people are in their own houses where they live in, 80%, and they're right there, click, raising hands. They don't have to come on the boat that ain't running. They don't have to be in the bad weather to get here,
If you
all
look-
set.
look up on the
You do
screen.
somebody.
dude, it's brutal.
So if you look up on
Low-
the- if you
we had
look on the
We had
state focus
climate
guide,
low tide this morning, I can't believe it, it happened last couple of years ago,
We need to stay focused here.
yeah, sorry.
So if you look at the screen, the template, this is using the template. And so it's got the, you put in the date of the particular meeting. The call to order is the attendance. So you plug that in, because that's not in the summary. And down below is where the summary kicks in. And so I just had to go in and actually the first part of the title, the summary already had, which was encroachment. So, I just had to attribute what was said to Tracy, but it actually started to identify her in the long section because she was here, so that's why it showed up as town. But it captured, in the summary, that whole topic. It then flagged the next steps. So I just went in and dressed it up with bullet points to break it up into categories. And then, I noted the motion to adjourn and unanimous acceptance by roll call vote. And then the end of the meeting.
Bill, how long did it take you to clean that up?
Not that long, once I decided to abandon the total script, which is what Rick was talking about, because that was probably 6 pages long,
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
because it
So that reduces the pain point for
considerably.
anybody volunteering.
Exactly.
Right, and the video record is there if somebody wants to go do it.
And so, but really, I think, if you go back, when you go home tonight and have a hot toddy and a marshmallow, and you want to break out this document again and check it, it's pretty straightforward. And it's much more palatable for somebody that reluctantly volunteers to do something. So anyhow, that's the long and short of it, and
Is there anything we could restructure in our agenda of how we handle the meeting that would make that all flow a lot easier?
I tried, when I first started using this, I tried to, if you think back, I asked everybody to identify themselves. Well, it's sort of, because we're all in the room, it sort of ignored you saying Phil Smith and then you talked. Because it captured all the dialogue under town said. Because that computer was logged in and that's what it went in at. So that didn't work. So I just jotting down, motions, first and second, and the vote.
I got that.
Yeah, in the summary, because
That's really what the minutes should be.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't need anything more than
So I
that.
mean, really, you get the time that it opened, who was in attendance. A summary of the whole meeting.
Yeah.
And any votes taken. And then the adjournment, so. Going forward, I can't see the minutes being any longer than one page.
The minutes go out tomorrow, how do you get the minutes out? I mean, I don't really know.
So the minutes, so you save it as a PDF. Once the group accepts the minutes, it goes to Maureen for posting. And, what I've been doing is, like on this particular meeting, I took the minute PDF and the agenda PDF, combined the two into one PDF. To make it easier for her to post it. And so that was it. The only thing that gets tricky is, and Lee will attest to this. If we present a document, like, so, say you came in and said, oh, this should be on our agenda, and we start to talk about it, and we introduce it, it's part of the minutes. So that has to be incorporated,
So it's like
into
exhibits
the
to a
minutes.
PNS or something.
so that PDF would have to also be included in the minutes. So it gets a little wonky there, but it's just one more step. And because I don't have an Adobe license, I'm relying on the free combined PDF files. But the minute Adobe realizes that you have even a free one, it keeps, every time you do that, it tries to sell you the thing.
Right.
And you really have to dump out and come in with a whole different, Internet Explorer or Chrome or something, and come in just as, somebody else. So, that's my step, that's my spiel. And I don't know if folks want to, sign up for a particular month, or each week, and each month, we're gonna have to tackle somebody to do so. I think it's helpful for whoever's gonna do it, if they know it, the meeting they're gonna do it, so that they jot down some of their own notes. So for this particular meeting, if somebody wants to pony up for it, I will walk that person through it. And then there'll be two of us that know how to do it. And then the next meeting, there'll be three of us that know.
So Bill, I had suggested we all rotate.
Yeah.
I mean, I assume everybody's in agreement on that, or what? I don't know how else to do it. I mean, I'm not gonna become Lee Saperstein.
Yeah.
And,
No, I think we should go.
you know,
Rick, for the record, I
Yep.
took over when the other Atherton quit.
I understand. Yeah, well, the other Atherton isn't coming back. Nor is her friend.
That's what it is.
But I'm willing to be the first guinea pig. But and then, in alpha order or something, we'll have a list, and that's what has to happen. Otherwise, Bill is working yeoman hours more than he expected to do.
All right. I'm gonna be chairing the two meetings that Bill's gonna be gone.
You get a hall pass from you, it's like,
So I'll take notes for whoever is, gonna do minutes and stuff, but, yeah, this is all Greek to me as far as
Yeah.
working with the computers and getting in and setting it up and all that sort of stuff is way beyond my,
Yeah, me too.
So
Ability.
speaking
I
of,
can't
following up on what Alan just brought up,
give it to Stu.
so the two meetings that I'm gonna be off island, you can't chair a meeting if you're not in attendance.
No, I was told that's not true.
Well, that's what I was told by,
So just a quick suggestion. It forces us the autonomous recording, the AI forces us to be a little bit more formal. But if we open the meeting with the time, if we close the meeting with the time, if every time somebody speaks, hi, I'm Lee Saperstein, I have a comment to make, then the AI system will pick up the fact that it's a different speaker.
unfortunately, when everybody's in the room, it doesn't do that. That's what the experience has shown. Which is why Maureen and I are trying to come up with to be able to use the summary.
Yeah, but if, as Rick suggests, we take the raw manuscript and try and shape or format it into something that looks like minutes, the fact that the AI's inserts a name at a certain point would be a clue to a human who understands, oh, I need a paragraph break here.
So anyhow, well, if Rick, if you're gonna volunteer, I'll work with you on this, and you can see if.
Our first task will be prepare the alpha list. So the next meetings are all slotted.
So I sent out actually, to everybody, the dates of the meeting and who wants to be the scribe, so I will resend that. And feel free to grab one. The other thing, and getting back to the next two meetings, which would be no, actually, be the February and April, will be the two meetings that I won't be there. And
oh,
I believe that, I don't, I'll check with Alan to let you know.
okay.
But the hybrid format, as I was telling Nat, who got here earlier, and Alan's come in a couple of meetings where things have been in a ride here. And the equipment isn't set up and working. This committee and tons of other committees that are using the Zoom process, there is no formal support for these committees to the technical issues. Charles from NCTV has been gracious enough to come down and get things running, but this room is used for other things, and the computer gets reconfigured. So it's not just set up strictly for Zoom. And the computer also is shut off, which means that when you come back in, if you turn it on, it goes through all their software updates. The recommendation was, and the note says, don't shut it down, because they want the upgrades to go at night. But that doesn't happen periodically, more frequently than not. So if in fact, for these hybrid meetings, and if the thing isn't working, then, you know, the meeting would just have to be canceled. We don't have that problem if it's strictly all remote, because everybody's remote and you can share with everybody remote, so. Just a heads up that may happen. So, other than that, is there any items not in the agenda that somebody wants to bring up?
Yeah, Bill, I think we should be a little bit more adventurous in our agendas. And let me suggest, or let me fill in what I mean. Mike Burns has worked with the town to release the revised long-term, long-range transportation plan. And appendices A and B have some 20 or 30 projects that he's listing in various levels of readiness. From money's in place and we'll be letting contracts to we're still hoping to get some planning done on this. And what's coming is an experiment with Pleasant Street to make Pleasant one-way, Atlantic one-way, a portion of Sparks and Williams one-way for a giant rotary in the Five Corners area of town. I think that our committee should be spending a little bit more time reviewing these, and if nothing else, from time to time, looking to see what's happening. For example, or what's happening. That experiment with the one-way system doesn't start until the force main is installed on Pleasant Street. Pleasant Street in the next week or two is going to turn into hell on earth because it's, I don't know whether it'll be one lane or whether they're going to close it all together. But they're going to be working on that for quite a while. The plan, the long-range transportation plan, has got suggestions for rotaries, Nobodere Farm Road and Milestone Road. I think Mike would like to revive the rotary at Fairgrounds and Old South, also Bartlett and Surfside. It seems to me that we should be not, I think the word monitor might imply that we're being strict. No, I think we should just be aware of it and from time to time get reports from Mike. And if Mike needs a listening post, particularly a listening post that's prepared to offer support, we should be it. Alan will recall that we used to have regular meetings with Mike, and Roads and Right Away, I think, can contribute to the things that are meant to improve the flow of traffic on Nantucket. For example, Mike talks about a scheme for paid parking. It's a very modest scheme, but nonetheless, transportation planning and the police are engaging on a project that will allow people to pay for extra time. In other words, I'm on a 1 hour parking zone, and I find that I need an extra hour and a half, or an extra half an hour to make it an hour and a half. Ed might appreciate this because the realtors are constantly looking for parking places. And smartphone, I want another half an hour, and in it goes, because the parking enforcement people are checking. I don't know if you notice, we're not getting our tires chalked anymore. They're walking around taking pictures of our license plates. And so if somebody were to pay for this extra time, and this is just an example of things that are happening and that we're not talking about. And I think we should be. That's it, Bill. And Alan, if you are cooking up an agenda with Bill, I can perhaps throw in an item or two.
So I think we got away from that a bit when we were told that the sidewalk work wasn't in our purview and stay out of it.
Yeah, but it was the sidewalk survey that we did that keyed the select board to throw $1 million a year into sidewalk renewal. And
Lee's right.
Oh, I understand it.
But
I'm just
everything
saying,
he's saying.
that's why we stopped.
And Bill, and you're right too, I'm just saying, this is the stuff that, like, my head explodes, okay? So we've tried to have some joint meetings. We're gonna have another one, we're having one tomorrow. And I call it the who's responsible for what meeting. No, that's what I'm calling it. What is happening now, and it's all just in recent time, all of a sudden, there's either too much going on with too many people for something, or not anything going on with something else. And for example, what's going on Prospect Street right now, that finished that driveway, it just got done. How did that all happen? So right at the edge of pavement, on a road that we're widening that stretch to fix it to Mill Street, to make it safe for bikes and vehicles to pass there because it's so tight. It's just how things are now. Like, there's like, what is going on? Garden Street sidewalk. 4-inch reveal on the curb, it should be 3. I'm not totally upset about it, but you gotta drive on the sidewalk to pass a car. Or we have to make it one way or get rid of a sidewalk. It's one or the other, right? So there are certain things that I agree with, we should be weighing in like we did, that Lee talked about is true, about the money that we're getting automatically every year, 1 million or whatever it is. I think it was.
It's for
Is it
5
1
years. It's
million
gonna
or is
run
it
out soon.
100,000, I forgot. Whatever it is, that was, this committee was part of that.
Yeah, 5
The
million.
Street and Sidewalk Committee, you were on that with me, Rick, 100 years ago, and then again later, when Kara came here. And that was all right-of-way committee stuff that kind of happened, and then all of a sudden now it's not. Like, that's why I was saying to him before you guys walked in, there's other committees now that are sort of like taken, I don't wanna say taken over, but have found their way into the stuff that we did before because these committees didn't exist. I think there needs to be a committee meeting about committees, like there's some that are overlapping now. REAC, Bike, BPAC is really good, it's important, because it does focus in on stuff that's the 2020s, you know what I mean? The bike stuff, regulation, like these things matter, okay? And I don't want this committee to fall apart because other committees are doing some of it. I think there's a way to get this committee more involved in some of the stuff
There's
it was doing before.
Nat, you're absolutely right. And I think there's a gentle, informal way to do it.
Yeah,
And that's to stay in
Right.
touch with Mike Burns, because he chairs the Traffic Safety Committee.
well, that is Libby's committee though. That is not appointed by the select board. And Mike is an ex officio. We used to call him the ex officio. We had emails always went to planning and Mike for this committee, like automatically.
Yeah.
Like, we just did it. And if there
Well,
was,
so we also have the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee, and Mike does chair that. Traffic safety is Art Gasparo, or has been. And we can talk to Art.
I think I don't know what the real answer is. I just know that we need to reformalize some things and sort of reset some of this stuff. You know, because I'm on REAC, and some of the stuff that we did is in the agendas, depending upon what we're doing. You know what I mean? With the paper streets and some of the stuff like that. So it's all sort of crossed over to each other.
Now, just a question, is this also related to how the staff approaches some of these issues, which we don't always want to talk about, but you know, they're expanding it,
So
seems to me.
So what I think has happened, right, and this is what I see with steamship stuff too. New people don't know what we always did.
Yeah.
It just, all of a sudden, things fall off. It's not anyone trying to do it. They just don't even know they've done
It
it.
just happens.
It just happened. So what I was saying with Lee, DPW director was always on the emails. Mike was always on the emails. Andrew was always on the emails with this committee. And the ex officio term, which I never even heard of until I got involved with this stuff, like, what's an ex officio? That's why we removed DPW from planning commission too, because they were already part of it. They're already working with the traffic, with the transportation guy. So I just think, and we have BPAC is sort of in the same bucket.
No, but
Is,
it's
know?
interesting. I was probably one of those that felt the DPW as a staffer was different and I wasn't sure he belonged on the.
Yeah.
P and E.
But they're
you know,
still
sometimes
involved
I'm
with all this
saying
every day.
there has to be a way to communicate
They're doing it.
and.
They do it with,
Yeah.
and that's one of the things that's happened with traffic safety has become more of a staff committee. Which I do understand the reasoning, but I also don't totally agree with that. And one of the things we're talking about these joint meetings we're having is, I think we need to have I would say a different type of coordinated review process for certain things that go on. Because like some of it's planning curb cut, some of it's town curb cut, some of it's what are we doing with this curb, sidewalk, bike? It's all kind of in the same bucket. When you started this stuff on Pleasant Street, you were the one that did it. People forget about you, Alan. I always remind them. That Phelan property thing has been being discussed for 20 years. It's or more. And all of a sudden, it's like somebody else's plan. Like, I don't, I don't like to forget how that all started. Now that it's a real plan and it's actually makes sense for that bike path to go jiggle into that property, I saw it to save the trees. I totally agree with that. And at some point in time, it can move. But there was this is not new. Okay, the original plan was to put on-street parking on Pleasant. And make it one way out of town. But the plan was to have a roundabout at the school to offset the jamming of traffic on Atlantic Ave. Well, that's not happening. And I don't see it happening because there's too many people that don't want it there. They think kids are gonna get run over. That's not true, but that's what they think. So.
Save the tree, save the
Never
tree.
the tree was never gonna go anywhere. That's.
I know.
But it's gonna be. You do, the five corner thing is almost one of those unfixable spots on the Nantucket that doesn't have a real answer. Doesn't. So.
Now, there's one worse, and we all know it, and nobody wants to talk about it, and that's Gardner Street.
Gardner Street, low curbs, strong sidewalks, have a good day. That's the answer.
And as so there were low curbs when they just put the first layer of asphalt down, but they're installing granite and brick now.
I already went down and talked to the guy. It's unbelievable. I'm not even gonna say anything. No, give up.
That being said, unless it's something else, we'll reach the end of our agenda here.
Yeah.
right?
So at some point, speaking of curb cuts, I think it's I know out our way, we have a concern about curb cuts and it's worth a discussion. I'm not sure it's our territory, but this group has a good perspective on things and I think it would be helpful. So
Yeah,
I
100%.
volunteered to I'll find some background and provide it for a future agenda item.
In this.
So very quickly, Bill, because I see the time and I realize what you're trying to do. Alan and I are on the cemetery commission and we meet in DPW and the friendliest guy in that building now is Drew Patno, the director.
Yeah.
He's accessible.
Yeah, I talk to him all the time about all this stuff. It's almost like we need to have somebody that's like the small thing director. The little stuff that no one seems to care about, because it's big.
We
big
have
stuff.
him. He's right here.
Just all small stuff.
For the sake of our committee, what we could have, and to make it spice it up for whatever reason, we should have a seat at the table perhaps with some of these other committee meetings, and we should have some of them come in. There's obviously a lot we have to do that goes into safety. I mean, we can't say, put this here and sunset, the crosswalks, everything else. I mean, there's lots of stuff. We overlap, but that way maybe we can provide some input that would lessen.
I was thinking of having an agenda item, have Joe Topham come into our meeting here, because he is doing a lot with this BPAC stuff, because,
and that's right.
yeah, he's really taken the reins with it. There's gonna be some stuff in town meeting this year about the regulations and whatever. It's, in the e-bike stuff, is a really good discussion, because it's brand new overnight, these things appeared here. And there was never any plan for it, sort of like Zoom and COVID, you know what I mean? Silent mopeds, so,
So if you listen to Mike Burns, Nat, 3 classes of e-bikes, class 3 are permitted on the road and may exceed 20 miles an hour, but they're not licensed, they're not registered. How are the police going to enforce somebody who's got a class 3 bike on a sidewalk? The guy pedals away and they don't know who he is.
you can, well. Okay,
All right, we need to.
I don't have
bring
any
this
answers
in,
to that.
so, having reached the end of our
All
agenda
right, so.
and running out of time,
I'm about ready to
I gotta
disappear.
go to
there you
work.
go. So, if we can have a.
How about a motion to adjourn?
There we go. Second.
So that was by, who was that?
I don't know.
I second it.
I moved
Bill.
it, Alan
By
second.
Rick. And Alan. And, we have to do the roll call. Alan Reinhardt,
Aye.
Keith Applestein,
Since it's 10:30 in the evening, of course I vote aye.
Rick Abbott,
Aye.
Matt Wolf.
Aye.
Bill Smith.
Aye.
Ed Gillum. And Bill Greer that says aye. Thank you all. and
Thank you.
Good evening.
All right.